Welcome to another show. Today, we look at why Supergirl failed while Spider-Man succeeded. Is it superhero fatigue? I think not. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel and click that little bell to stay informed. And yes, I'm back in the studio. I gave Ted his walking papers, so enjoy today's show. The contrast between Supergirl and Spider-Man Brand New Day is not merely another instance of Marvel outperforming DC, the sort of verdict that can be delivered faster than a post-credit scene. It's a case study in how contemporary superhero films convert character attachment into commercial anticipation. By 31 July 2026, Supergirl had earned approximately $72 million domestically after opening to $37.1 million, while Brand New Day had already generated $72 million from preview screenings alone, because the latter had not yet completed its opening weekend. The comparison must remain provisional. Comparing the two totals is a little like judging a foot race while one runner is still tying a tape. Nevertheless, the scale of advanced demand reveals a decisive difference in audience investment. I want to say that the statements made by the star of Supergirl did not help any.
She doesn't live inside the binary of what we think a woman should be.
Dogs are better than people because
they don't talk.
Question online about Kara's queerness in the comics was that.
We'll see. I don't really know, but should probably go both ways. I don't know. I think that what makes this film so beautiful is that it's not centered around a man. It's not centered around love at all.
Now, do I think the film would have succeeded if she had not made these statements? Probably not. But I think it would have made more money than it did. It might have come closer to $100 million. And as far as not wanting a man and all that, one of the reasons that Spider-Man succeeds is because the audience is invested in the relationship between MJ and Peter Parker. They want to see where that goes. If you have a relationship type in your movie, you might do a hell of a lot better. Now, this essay argues that Spider-Man benefited from accumulated identification with Peter Parker, a clearly legible emotional objective, and sequel continuity, whereas Supergirl asked viewers to embrace Kara Zor-El before adequately dramatizing the turning point that would make her self-destructive behavior meaningful. Character likability is too blunt a term for this distinction. Narrative research more precisely describes identification as a temporary alignment between spectator and character, a process associated with enjoyment, emotional impact, and reflection. Audiences do not have to approve of a protagonist at every moment. They need access to a discernible desire, vulnerability, and movement toward change. Most viewers have endured a friend telling a story that never seems to reach the point. A protagonist without a readable objective can produce the same light but fading attention. The earlier comparison with Eddie Valiant in Who Framed Roger Rabbit is useful because his decision to discard alcohol externalizes an internal recommitment. The gesture does not erase his flaws, but it reorganizes the narrative. Grief ceases to be only an excuse for withdrawal and becomes an obstacle he chooses to confront. In comic book terms, the bottle is not merely a prop, it is the villain. He can finally punch without damaging city infrastructure. Supergirl offers Kara a comparable problem, but delays and diffuses the moment of transformation. Her drinking on Red Sun Worlds communicates trauma and avoidance, yet the film's late implication that she will remain on Earth and sober up lacks the dramatic force of a sustained decision. It resembles the friend who announces a dramatic life reset at brunch, orders a planner, and then never opens it. The stated intention is clear, but the transformation has not yet become a story. Several contemporary reviews identified precisely this structural weakness. Critics praised Miley Alcock's performance and the film's engagement with grief, but also described Kara's emotional journey as muddled, rushed, or overwhelmed by action and supporting plots. The problem, then, is not that Kara begins as abrasive or damaged. Difficult protagonists can generate powerful identification. Comic book readers have spent decades caring about masked vigilantes whose conflict resolution plan begins with property damage. The problem is that the film withholds a sufficient, legible, casual chain connection, pain, choice, sacrifice, and renewal. Placed in these terms, the commercial contrast begins with narrative architecture. A superhero film does not simply present admirable traits, It organizes spectators' knowledge so that they understand what the hero wants and prevents it, and what a decision action costs. Kara's trauma is intelligible, but her government desire remains unstable between escape, revenge, care for crypto, and responsibility toward Ruthie. That is a heroic to-do list with more competing priorities than a group project that night before the deadline. The instability could have produced complexity, yet the film does not consistently subordinate its episodic adventure to her psychological development. Consequently, the ending announces maturation more than it demonstrates it, less a completed character arc than a caption promising continued next issue. Now, Peter Parker enters Brand New Day with a clearer emotional inheritance. The conclusion of No Way Home required him to erase himself from the memories of MJ, Ned, and the wider world. Promotional descriptions of the new film, therefore, activate an already established question. Can Peter sustain an exclusively heroic identity without the relationship that made sacrifice worthwhile? Viewers approach the sequel not merely because Spider-Man is recognizable, but because a prior film has left an unresolved emotional contract. Anyone who has reopened an old message thread and wondered whether to type, "Hey, it's been a while," understands the dramatic mechanism. Although Peter's vision includes multiversal consequences and considerably more spandex, the wish to see him reconnect with MJ is simultaneously romantic, ethical, and structural. It promises a test of whether self-denial was noble, avoidant, or both. That inherited question also gives viewers something unusually valuable in franchise cinema: a reason to speculate together. The familiar post-film ritual, standing in a parking lot, ignoring the weather, and arguing about what a final glance really meant, is not trivial chatter. It is evidence that the story has escaped the screen and become a shared interpretive problem. Superhero fandom elevates this ritual into an informal research institute. One person cites a freeze frame, another produces a comic issue from 1987, and a third insists that the director's choice of shoelaces proves the existence of the multiverse. Peter and MJ already possess that kind of accumulated conversational afterlife. Kara's film must build it from scratch, while simultaneously introducing planets, villains, companions, trauma, and a dog with a better brand recognition than many supporting actors. This inherited investment produces what might be called franchise memory, the accumulation of past characterization, relationships, performances, and cliffhangers that a new installment can mobilize before it's first seen. Tom Holland's Peter Parker arrives with years of audience familiarity and a persona built around vulnerability, humor, responsibility, and loss. The audience has already done several semesters of Peter Parker homework. Brand New Day begins with the advanced seminar. Some fans have completed the unofficial laboratory requirement as well, having watched every trailer frame by frame and reorganized their shelves so the action figures face the correct canonical direction. Supergirl, by contrast, functions substantially as an introduction. Its protagonist must establish her wounds, moral orientation, supporting relationships, and capacity for change within a single film. The disparity is therefore not evidence that audiences categorically prefer Marvel to DC, nor that a female superhero is less commercially viable. It demonstrates the advantage of a sequel that converts long-term emotional continuity into an opening weekend event. The box office data reinforces this interpretation while also requiring caution. Supergirl opened below reported studio expectations and displayed short domestic legs, with its opening weekend accounting for more than half of its eventual domestic gross. Brand New Day, meanwhile, set a reported domestic preview sales record and was projected to open near $270 million. These figures measured different stages of release, and previews by highly committed fans can exaggerate eventual demand. A Thursday night crowd is the cinematic equivalent of asking the people already wearing capes whether they enjoy superheroes. It is also like polling customers inside a bakery about their position on bread. Informative, but not exactly a neutral sample. Opening night has its own fandom, liturgy. Arrive early, photograph the poster, buy a souvenir cup too large for any domestic cabinet, and threaten exile for anyone who mentions spoilers before the parking garage. Even so, the asymmetry indicates that Spider-Man's campaign did not need to teach audiences why Peter mattered. It needed only to reactivate an existing attachment. Supergirl had the more difficult task of turning curiosity into identification, and mixed critical reception limited the word of mouth that might have extended its run. A franchise can survive one skeptical review, but a weak recommendation from the friend who organized movie nights can function like kryptonite. It's beyond Marvel beats DC. A broader explanation must also recognize industrial factors: release timing, marketing expenditure, theatrical competition, brand recognition, and the legacy of previous installments. All shape commercial outcomes. Even Superman needs a release calendar, and no amount of heat vision can make competing tentpoles disappear. Genre fatigue is selective rather than universal. Audiences may resist superhero films perceived as interchangeable, while still mobilizing for characters whose stories promise consequential development. Superhero fans are often accused of fatigue immediately before they purchase tickets for the fourth screening. A steelbook edition and a popcorn bucket shaped like an object no sensible person would store popcorn in. Spider-Man's success therefore does not disprove superhero fatigue, it clarifies it. Familiar iconography alone is insufficient, but familiarity joined to unresolved narrative stakes can still create urgency. A cape may secure the poster, it cannot by itself secure the second weekend. Gendered reception must also be considered without reducing this result to audience prejudice, or treating representation as a substitute for analysis. Some criticism of Supergirl objected to what it regarded as superficial empowerment language, while other reviewers praised the film for allowing Kara to remain rough-edged and emotionally wounded. This disagreement resembles the familiar seminar debate in which half the room calls a character complex and the other half calls the same character exhausting. While everyone cites the same three scenes, it suggests that the central issue is not whether a heroine may be flawed, but whether the narrative grants those flaws coherent development. An academic account should therefore resist equating likability with compliance or warmth. After all, Batman has a built-in entire cultural institution around declining invitations and speaking as though every conversation occurs on a gargoyle. The more useful distinction is between productive difficulty, which deepens identification, and underdeveloped motivation, which obstructs it. In conclusion, 4 forces explain the divergent outcomes. First, identification depends less on simple likability than on readable desire and a visible choice. Second, Kara's grief and self-destructive behavior provide promising material, but the film delays the decisive action that would convert those traits into a satisfying transformation. Third, Peter Parker benefits from franchise memory. Audiences already understand his losses, relationships, and unresolved emotional stakes before the new story begins. Finally, marketing scale, release conditions, and sequel familiarity amplify those narrative advantages. The result is not the simplistic headline, Marvel defeats DC, a crossover event no one needs, although fandom would still debate its power scaling for 6 months. But a lesson in how franchises earn attention. Spectacle can bring audiences to the theater, yet character development gives them a reason to care. After the popcorn runs out and the group chat begins its 147-message argument about canon. In comic book language, the costume gets the splash page, but the consequential decision earns the next issue. And that was our show for today. A deep dive into why Supergirl failed, even though I thought the movie was okay. I thought it deserved a bigger box office than it got. And Spider-Man succeeded. And I personally think that this Spider-Man was good, but kind of a letdown compared to the previous one. Of course, we had 3 Spider-Mans in the previous one. But I think, this one did not quite deliver on the action scenes that I thought it should have. I mean, there's a lot of action in it, but it's unfocused, going from character to character to character. So I thought Supergirl was decent, and I thought Spider-Man was decent. But I don't know. Anyway, that was our show for today. A look at why one succeeded, one didn't. What are your thoughts? Did you like Supergirl? Did you like Spider-Man Brand New Day? Did you not like either one? Do you think both of them could have been better films? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section below. And until next time, this is Kevin Gibbon reminding you to check out the Carl Vincent franchise, which is in the comments section, and live long and prosper. May the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.